Today's Saturday. I decided to visit another park on my list where chances of meeting wildlife are higher than usual. So this is Carburn Park, basically southwest part of Calgary. About 30 clicks, 23 miles away from my home. So they have one small lake over here. As you can see, like it's all paved and it's all cleaned from snow. I was just driving and listening to weather reports. Man, those poor folks in Buffalo, New York, 72 inches of snow. That's just crazy. And here the weather is typical Calgary. We start the morning -8 Celsius, and at 11 o'clock it'll be +1. So I think it's like was it -8? I'm guessing somewhere around 20 F, and then it becomes 33 F. Okay, so yeah, that's one small lake, and now this goes around this bigger one, and then you basically come back. So it's not that big actually. I'm not sure what I was expecting. I thought it would be bigger. So this park was on that list, 10 spots around Calgary for wildlife photography. But you know, why sit at home, right? It's not that cold. Well, all I see is magpies. Now, my dream is to capture an owl. They're so hard to find, you know, and they're hiding in trees. So my friendly boss is coming for an inspection / visit Monday. Gonna help me set up fancy headsets he sent me, and I'll be all ready to make and receive calls right from the computer through the TELUS Business Connect app. And actually we tried it now, you know, without the mic. I was just talking into the display because it has a mic at the bottom, and it sounded pretty good. I could hear him, he could hear me. But at first we had an issue. For some reason I couldn't dial an outside number. I was only able to dial his extension, because the way he set it up, it's like we're inside the same office, you know. So let's say his extension is 55, mine is like 59, something like that. So for me to call him, and he's near Edmonton, all I have to do just dial the extension number from the TELUS mobility app on my desktop, or you can also use it on the cell phone, on the laptop, you know. pretty cool. And at first I couldn't dial an actual 9-digit number. The system would say, you know, error. You're not set up in your organization to make outgoing calls. And then I told the boss, and he was able to fix it, so now I can dial whenever. And my cell coverage is still a bit spotty, so I'm using Wi-Fi calling. I enabled the Wi-Fi calling on my phone, and at first I disabled Wi-Fi in my apartment. But specifically because of this bad cellular signal, I reactivated Wi-Fi. Oh, I see a guy with a big camera shooting something over there. So let's see, what are we hoping for, guys? I would say an alligator? No, maybe a bear. A bear fighting an alligator. That's what I want. No, but this park would be super nice. You know, somewhere in the spring, around sunrise. You know, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's no people. I bet there would be lots of birds in here. And I've been reading up on winter storage tips for cars. Found an interesting article on driving.ca. Was it driving.com? So I was particularly interested about, you know, in tires. Is it really true, or is it like an urban myth that you'll develop flat spots? And the article says all you gotta do is make sure you put a bit more air. You know, before you park the car, let's say they recommend, I don't know, 32, 33 psi, put in like 40, 45. Okay, and make sure the tires don't leak. And what I always do on a new car, I take that little gadget and I tighten all the valves, because from the factory they can be loose and the air would start getting out. And so that takes care of tires, right? Just higher pressure. And then they recommend using some boards. Putting some, you know, like a couple of basically flat boards. Okay. I don't see anything particularly interesting. We'll go this way. Actually, I think I've been here, but on the other side of the river. I think this is the fish park, because this is where I saw an eagle. So basically, about the tires, they say, so put tires at the higher pressure and let the car sit on pieces of wood instead of a concrete, so that the tires don't harden. You know, that's one thing that takes care of the tires. Then they were saying very important is fuel. They were saying make sure you put some high octane fuel, preferably without ethanol. And I hate ethanol, and I know that's like your enemy in winter. And so the dealer promised to get me some free gas, and I want to make sure they give me premium, because here Shell, if you buy premium from Shell, there's 0 ethanol, but like high premium, like 91 or 93, no, 91. I see a cute little duck, like white body, black head, but he's moving very fast this way. Okay, and I think this is where, actually, yeah, I think this is the best part. Lots of geese. And so yeah, fuel, very important, high octane, no ethanol preferably, and just basically a full tank. And they're also saying, sorry for my running nose, it's still cold, and they were saying it's good to have some kind of, you know, one of those storage, fuel storage additives that you can put in. But they said make sure you inspect the bottle before you pour it out into your tank. One guy forgot that he used that bottle to store like silicone, some kind of glue. And he looked at the bottle. Hey, fuel storage additive, you put it in, and of course now he had all the silicone inside his tank. So that takes care of tires, fuel, and then the last thing is how to protect the car from rodents like mice, rats, squirrels. And of course they were saying if you have leather inside, if you can get inside, that's bad. I'm not sure what I can do about that, but in the engine they say that these creatures like eating air filters, and the guy was saying that we suggest you remove the air filter and you block that hole that goes into the engine, you know, the manifold where the air goes in. I'm not sure how I can block it, because if I just put, you know, like some cloth or something, they can just eat it, right? But I remember actually it did happen to me once when I lived in Guelph, Ontario, and I had this Chevy Cobalt Sport 2.4 liter, a nice, you know, 2-door coupe. And of course I would park it there at the trucking company where I worked, and then, you know, then I'm gone like 2-3 weeks. Hold on, I think I see that duck again. Let's see if I can take a picture. As soon as I click the shutter button, the guy dive. You know how they say in those. And man, this thing stays down. 10 seconds, 15. Wow. Oh, there's another one over there. Well, at least I took a picture of an airplane. I think it looks good. One thing I cannot figure out is why I cannot see. I cannot see the histogram. This is supposed to give me the histogram in the viewfinder. It makes it much easier to shoot with correct exposure. And I had that on my Z6 or Z6. But here I see it on live view screen when I switch to live view, but if I go to just a viewfinder, I don't see it, so I'll have to research. I have a manual at home because it's a pretty complicated camera. Man, so many geese. And see, the geese, they cannot dive underwater, so they just stay with their ears in the air. But that small duck that I was trying to capture, it just dives right under and stays underwater for quite a long time. This is good. I think the river is called Bow River. So on the right we have trees. There's houses over there. But I'm on this side of the river, like I don't know, how do you switch to the other side? I think I'll probably have to go back the same way I came. And I don't see any big birds like ospreys or ospreys or eagles. I only see a geese and a couple of those cute little ducks. And the lady that just I passed, she had binoculars. So the technical term is bird watcher. Bird watching. So they don't even take pictures, they just enjoy observing wildlife. And they know, these folks, some of them, they know like every bird, what it's called, how it sound, what it sound like. I remember we went into Thompson Park near Toronto. A huge park, open only on weekends, and there was like a free guide, one of these bird watcher guys, and man, he could tell every bird by the sound, how the bird was singing, you know? Wait a second. Are we even still in Calgary? Because I thought I was... Where am I here? Oh wow. This is not Carburn Park, if my car is there. So I think over here I probably have to. So this is where I am. I'm gonna turn around over here, go back. It's good to have the phone because they show most trails. So I always use the phone when I'm in an unfamiliar park. Otherwise you can end up in Leduc, Alberta, which of course we don't want to do. But an area like this, I was in Fish Creek Park, and there was like an island like this, and that's where I saw an eagle, you know, just sitting on the ground. There's probably 1,000 geese in here. I'm guessing they're just fishing. But yeah, this was a good walk, boys and girls. Highly recommended on a quiet winter morning when you have nothing better to do. And so yeah, to continue about the car. So tires, yeah, higher pressure, put the car on pieces of wood. Fuel, high octane, full tank, no ethanol, and preferably put in like one of those fuel storage additives. And then the air filter, take it out and clog with something the entry into the engine. And then the battery, they were recommending to disconnect and take home with you, which I'm not gonna do because it's a heated garage. But they were saying that on some fancy cars, I don't know if that refers to my Hellcat or not, but they're saying on some cars like Porsche, the battery will drain because there's something going on in the background, and so they recommend disconnecting it. And I know in Challengers it's, oh yeah, that's what it was showing. It was showing this little turn off, but it's all blocked. So in Challengers the battery's in the trunk. I don't know if I'll have a spare tire or not, but that's where you open the floor covering in the trunk, and that's where the battery's on the right. Yeah, so this used to be, that's why they have those rocks in there. So, but now this is the closest I can get to the water, I'm guessing. And I think after this I deserve a good brunch. Saturday brunch, maybe with some pancakes, I don't know. Oh yeah, so now I see the guy is riding a bike on the other side. And the water here is much calmer. There, the duck again. So white body, black head with some. Oh, this one is cute. This one has a red beak. But by the time I get my camera out, they all disappear. Yeah, one weird thing about this camera is that the sound it makes, you know, the shutter sound doesn't sound very very good. You would think that for a camera that costs such a humongous amount of money, they would give you a nicer sound, like on a D6. D6 sounds really nice. Actually, I think I got lucky. I should get a couple of good shots because there was the sun. See, this is beautiful. This is how you're supposed to shoot, with the sun behind your back. It was directly illuminating these little ducks. I'm gonna look up online, see what they're called. Well, check this out. So the water froze completely coming out of the drain, and I think this is Highway 2. Maybe I'm mistaken. Okay, let's see what's happening here. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting area, and this would go on for a very long. I think this goes to that other park, what is it called, Weasel Flat or something. But I would go that way if I could. So the river goes like that. So yeah, this is, I'm definitely coming back with my Hellcat in the summer. And so I think those are all the tips about the car storage. I remember the story said there's eight tips. So tires, air filter, fuel, battery, and then they were saying it's, people used to cover cars, but all it, you know, especially if you use some kind of like a heavy cover, all it does is just capture condensation, and that's the worst thing that can happen to a car in winter, where you have condensation in your fuel or somewhere inside the engine bay. That's when it can start rusting. But that's why I went with the heated indoor storage. We're gonna put it on pieces of wood, make sure tires are all nicely inflated, and then all the valves are tightened, and that's it. Disconnect the battery, and then hopefully come April, let's say 15th or something, the car will start after I reinstall the air filter and reconnect the battery. So I paid for 6 months, so now it's November, so December, January, February, March, April, May. Oh cool, so I paid until May, and I got lucky because they had a, from, they said normally they charge like, I forget, $229 or $250, and now they had a promotion because they only had a few spots left, and so now it was $200 Canadian. So it's like $150 US for a nice warm I didn't see it yet, it's not on my contract, but they said it's kind of like a big shop, because these guys are they're mechanics, so they fix cars, and then they have their second building which they turned into a storage facility. I think it's a smart idea, you know. So you have 5 cars, you get $1,000 a month. 5 cars, right? What if they store, if they can store 100 cars in there, and everybody pays them $200 a month? 200 times 100, what is that, 20,000 a month? Man, So probably that's the business I should be in, especially in Alberta, you know, with such cold weather. But how do you get a building like that? Probably the mortgage is going to be $10,000 a month. But if you can get 20 grand, you're still ahead by 10,000. You know? Because this, folks, if you're somewhere in Australia or Florida or Texas, please do not attempt this. This will not work in your area. It only works in cold climate areas like Alberta or Northern Ontario. Like, of course, especially here, Calgary, it's a pretty big city. So there's a lot of rich folks who like fancy cars. And they probably have, unlike me, they have 2 or 3 cars. You know, like one fancy Corvette for the spring and summer, and one pickup truck for fishing and hunting, and one big Escalade SUV for family outings with the small one, with the little ones on New Year's Eve. But anyway, I'm gonna pause the video till I get back to that little turnoff where I didn't go yet, because you guys already seen this, right? And I think my camera is gonna die soon because it's still cold, and these GoPros, they don't last very long in cold weather. And by the way, in case somebody's wondering, I'm using a chest harness. This keeps the camera much more steady than if I was to put it on my head using a head harness, which I know some of you hate. But finally saw something interesting. It's called gray partridge, but they just flew. Where did they come from? So 2 gray partridges that I saw in that open area where I went for a drive, but they don't look very good. They're just gray birds, but they're big, kind of like the size of a small goose, and they flew somewhere in there. Okay, and I see, what is that? Just like a squirrel or something? Something cool did happen, boys and girls. I'm telling you, when you're on this wildlife hunt, sorry, my GoPro 9 finally died, so now I'm using I knew this would happen, so I brought my older GoPro 8. And something interesting did happen. I started to say that when you are, you know, on a wildlife hunt like this, your senses are pretty acute, and especially since, you know, all you see here, wait a second, is that a swan? Man, yeah, check this out. Oh wow, almost missed these guys. That's not a very typical thing to see, and they're with geese. And I'll tell you in a second what I saw. Okay, we have to change from DX to FX. Okay, let's see, where's our swans over there? and they're not afraid. They're quite close. And so geese seem to, oh shoot, I turned off my vibration reduction, but hopefully the picture is not blurred, because I did use a pretty high shutter speed. But yeah, so what happened over there, I was walking, and there you go, that's the guy flying over there. Of course it's too far to see, but it's probably like 50 meters away from me, and that guy was sitting on top of a tree, and you can see right away it's something big, you know. And I started taking pictures. He was looking at me, and I had to change to DX format, and because it was so far, and DX gives me 1.5 magnification. So now he sat down over there, but it's even further than when he was in a tree, and I had no idea what it was. Was it like a hawk? Was it a osprey? And then I was walking, and I see another guy with a big Canon camera, big Canon setup, probably like 600mm lens, and he was taking pictures of this guy. And I said, "Hey, do you know what it is?" Never be ashamed to admit you have no idea what you're taking pictures of. And to my surprise, the guy says, "That's an eagle." I'm like, "What?" He says, "It's a juvenile bald eagle." And of course, bald eagle has a bright, usually like white head. But turns out that when they're kids, they're all black. Now here's another guy. He just has a telescope. Probably just watching a US-Canadian border from here. Okay, we see Sony or Canon, something like that. But this is a good spot. And that's where that eagle, somewhere there, but it's too far. I think actually it's gone. Sitting over there. Did you see the bald eagle over there?
Yeah.
I saw it in the tree, and then it was.
Then it came down. See the spots?
Sorry?
You see the spots?
Yeah, and they were right close.
Yeah.
Not afraid. I took a couple of shots. Wow. I like this park already. See, that's a good indication, because these other parks I went in, I hardly saw any guys with big camera like mine, big lenses. But here I saw that Canon guy, I saw this guy, and I saw a couple of guys in the parking lot. Okay, now officially this is my favorite park. So when it gets warmer, I'm gonna buy I'm thinking I'm gonna buy like a folding bike, the type I had before. I don't know if you guys remember, but I had this Citizen folding bike when I still had my yellow International 9400, and since I never had a passenger, so I just threw out the passenger seat, especially since for some reason that seat had no air cushions. it was just a very uncomfortable seat, you know, kind of like in a old school bus. It was directly bolted to the floor. And I don't remember if I did it myself or I hired somebody. I think I did it myself, unless the bolts were too rusty for me to unscrew. Morning. Hello. Nice cute dog with socks and a sweater. I really want to have a dog, you know, but I have no idea. I never had one, but it would be cool to have a little companion, as long as it doesn't shed too much hair and stays in one place for more than 2 minutes. Because, you know, some of these dogs, it's like a kid, right? It's like you get a baby and you have to buy food, you have to take care of their health. Yeah, okay, so basically I'm going back on this side of this lake. Yeah, this was a good hike. I probably did already, I'm guessing, 2.5 kilometers. Oh, and as I was walking, I got my cell phone out and I just clicked Google search with voice, and I said, how to enable histogram in viewfinder Nikon Z9. And right away I see a video link pop up where a guy explains how to make it happen. So now I already know how to customize the display when you shoot. There's a secret button you have to press to cycle through different modes of your display, and one of them shows the histogram. But it's not like an evident choice. It's not something that says, you know, modes or eye info or something like that. It's a tricky little button, and it is getting warmer, just like they said. So let's see, what's the temperature now? -8. Still -8. And these magpies are everywhere. And the Canon guy was saying that, of course, for a juvenile eagle, bald eagle, to be here, that means that his parents are somewhere here. And he was saying that in this area there's a couple of adult eagles, so that would be cool to find them, because they're much easier to photograph. Because this thing was still like with the wings fully spread out, it was maybe like this size, like 3 feet. But if it was a real big eagle, it would be like this, 6 feet. It would fit nicely inside my camera viewfinder. You know, lots of cars now in the parking lot. So I didn't want to come here too early, because right now the sunrise is pretty much at 8 a.m. And of course I'm on mountain time. Wow. And so I got up at 7:15 and left the apartment at pretty much 8. So I was here 8:30. So my pickup truck is still here. So the plan for today is just go back home. Oh, maybe I'll go for some nice brunch and then go home, do the video. I'm gonna check out the pictures, see if I got anything decent. So if I did something that's sharp and correctly exposed, I'm gonna add them to the end of this video. And then what's happening later today is I should get my coffee maker from Amazon. So we're gonna do a test, coffee maker test. But probably just like a shorty video, huh? All right, hello. And I think that's all I wanted to say for today. See, this is my harness. But I didn't realize it, that you can actually put it like this on the dash. And you can still record a video. Yeah. So you can use the pad in the center as support. Sorry, there was some dust, speck of dust on the screen. But those are the news. So work-wise, I didn't get anywhere far yet. Only had one guy reach out, ask me for a quote. I researched the area where this was going, and advice from my boss. He says, you know, open the load board and see how many trucks are on that lane. He says if you see a lot of trucks, that means that the rate, you know, can be lower, right? Because there's a lot of competition. If you don't see many trucks, then the rate has to be higher. And then also I can search our internal database of carriers that are already registered with my logistics company, because then it's much easier, right? They're already set up, they're in the system. And so they suggested a couple of carriers, and I can find them on the computer. I can see the email address, you know. So I reached out, asked those guys. So I got like 4. When the shipper gave me this load, he says, you know, how much would you charge? So I found 4 carriers and asking for a quote. And this was a load inside Canada, and the spread was huge. The spread in price, you know, sometimes when I was trucking, right, sometimes the broker would say, hey, I have a guy that, you know, let's say I'm asking for, you know, 15,000, and he says, hey, I have a guy that's ready to do it for 11, but he's busy for the next 2 weeks. You know, and I'm like, I always thought that they were just pulling my leg, you know, but now I see myself. So there was a spread of about $4,000, believe it or not, $4,000 Canadian. So the cheapest guy, but the cheapest guy was kind of like, you know, we were not communicating very well. I said, okay, where's your truck? When is your truck coming? When can you load? And he's like, you know, he's not giving me a definitive answer. So what kind of trailer? Okay, step deck. Okay, do you have ramps? You know. Judging by the accent, he was either from India or Pakistan, maybe Russia. No, not Russia. Somewhere from maybe China or something like that. So we were not communicating, you know. I couldn't understand when he was telling me. But that was the cheapest guy. And so I quickly decided that I don't want to work with this guy, you know. Because, you know, I could have made some money, right? But what's the point of booking a truck that you're not even sure this guy, you know, will deliver on his promise, right? It's still it was a brand new piece of equipment. It was a backhoe loader. And so I went with the second guy. And of course you have to add something as a broker, right? And the shipper says, thank you very much, but we found a cheaper carrier by ourselves. So I'm guessing he was just testing me to see what I can do. But it was a very good exercise, you know. It was good exercise. I learned how to, you know, research the lane, you know, how to find carriers. And then of course now I have this little database I have running on thanks to YouTube. Actually, one guy reached out this morning, sent me his info, so I'm gonna include his company's email address in my database of carriers. So next time, you know, as more and more carriers kind of like sign up with me, it'll be easier to get quotes. And of course the plan is I'm gonna, oh, and even that load actually I ended up posting. I posted on 2 load boards, and that was another interesting experience. My first time ever posting a load as a broker or agent. And I had my friend on the phone who was kind of like holding my hand virtually. Okay, click this button, do this, do this. Do you see that where it says new posting? I'm like, where? Oh, here. Okay. It's kind of like similar to posting a truck. You know, when I was looking for loads as a trucker, right? Some of these load boards, they will not show you any results unless you post your truck as available. And so here I just open that screen, search for trucks, new posting, and then you just add details, you know, dimensions, weight, what kind of trailer you want, origin, destination, and enter your contact info. Boom, done. But so, of course, if I had enough carriers in my little database, I wouldn't have to do that, because it takes like 2 seconds to shoot a quick email to all these folks, and they can just say, hey, I have this, anybody's interested? If yes, please reply with, you know, availability and rate. And that's the whole point. That's what I want to do is, of course, again, I want to specialize in equipment and machinery, not type of trailers as I originally thought. Because, you know, when you ship a crane, let's say, right, there's always fall off loads. So I don't want to be the guy telling the shipper that, hey, I don't work with flatbeds, but I can help you, you know, with the RGM to move the main body. And he'd probably be like, wait a second, okay, so we found you don't want to work with flatbed trailers, so what are we gonna do with the rest of, you know, all these counterweights and boom sections, right? So you cannot do it like that. So you have to specialize, what I realized, in certain type of a load. And since I know that as a trucker, that's what I want to specialize in: equipment and machinery, specifically excavators, dozers, wheel loaders, rail equipment that I moved only once, a rail car mover. Oh, and then another time I moved a rail loader. It was kind of like a wheel loader, except the wheels were rail wheels. And they use those machines, you know, to pick up ties and stuff like that, you know, do some work on the tracks. And so that's all I know as a trucker, right? So machinery and equipment. and that's gonna be my specialty. And so even if you have like a step deck trailer, like this load, this backhoe, it was only 9'6" tall, 9 feet 6 inches. So it would work perfect on a step deck, but you need ramps, right? So if you have ramps, it would still be dangerous, you know, like it's still heavy. The backhoe, especially with that arm in the back, right? It can tilt. I don't know, a step deck, it's still like 36, 40 inches off the ground. You know, of course, IGN is way easier to deal with when you have machinery and equipment, but that's what's happening. So I keep looking for shippers. That's my main objective right now. Kind of like the analogy I showed you guys with the real estate, right? So you don't care too much about buyers, right, when you deal with real estate. So first you have to find houses to sell, right? So you have to find sellers, right? And then once you secure the contract with the seller, then it's way easier to find buyers, right? And so the same story here. I have to find loads or freight or equipment dealers, and then when I have that, then I can look for trucks, basically buyers of the freight, so to speak, right? People that want to move that freight that I found. So finding freight, finding shippers is the most important thing. So, and it's not easy, otherwise everybody would be doing it. So anyway, sorry for the long video. So nice beautiful Saturday morning in Calgary, Alberta. I'm off to have the breakfast, and then we'll be testing, will be a very delicate and detailed scientific test on the coffee maker.